So it does give you a definition between holes, gives you an aspect of protection, I guess, and members sort of will feel safer being on a tee when there's a fairway in close proximity if there's trees in between. Not that it gives you that much protection, but I guess mentally it does. It does have benefits from an environmental point of view, but when you're planting trees that are non-indigenous, it kind of takes away from that side of it, I guess. Like we've got a lot of silver birch, and we've had all sorts of pine. We've had Corsican pines and sycamores and white beams planted that don't really belong in this environment. So a lot of, like we said, in the 70s and 80s, they were a phase for planting trees. And a lot of the trees were planted and have never been thinned out, never been maintained, which is what we've got here. We've started doing a lot of thinning out, but particularly around our greens, where trees have been left to encroach or they've been planted, you're dealing with the shade issues, the lack of airflow. Like I said earlier, we've got roots that are actually growing under greens. You're losing moisture and nutrients, so you're having to put additional on where you ideally wouldn't. Disease pressure as it is now, it's such a big thing at the moment, and if you've got greens that are sat in shade for most of the day, you're fighting a losing battle with a disease, really. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're putting additional feeds on, fungicides, water to combat what the tree's taking away, whether that's nutrient, moisture, or your airflow and light, it's a false economy, really. Whereas if you can take a tree out, and I know people don't necessarily like taking trees out, but if you're doing it for the right reasons and you can justify it, then it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. You play golf on grass, don't you? You don't play golf in the tree. Well, depending on how accurate you are, but your primary sort of target is to get good grass growth, good healthy surfaces that you're playing on. And if that's been compromised by the trees, then you've got to get a little bit of balance. And like I said, we know people don't like taking trees out, but as we're standing here, there's a load of silver birch that have been planted and they've never been maintained. They haven't been sort of thinned out, which should have been done as part of the sort of plan. Historically, golf courses did have a bad name. They used a lot more fungicides, pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, everything that, it's a lot more strictly monitored now, and each greenkeeper is a lot more on the ball, in my opinion, now as when it used, historically how they've done things. So we are trying as an industry and as a job. Part of our responsibility for this environment is to do it sustainably, which we try and do. Stuff like this gorse is all natural, so this is natural to this environment. We are a heathland site. We're on pure sand, acidic grasslands, but you can see the amount of trees we've got. I'm going off on a tangent about trees there, sorry. So this gorse is all natural, and this is like a natural hazard. So this is on both sides of this hole. We're on the 10th. This bit has not been touched in quite a few years, so this is due some maintenance. But ideally, we want to maintain this for the wildlife that it supports, the varied sort of moths and bees for the pollen and all that. So it's such an important part of a diminishing environment, if you like. With the heathland, it is diminishing, and we are on a heathland site here, although we've got a lot of trees. The broom and the heather's declined a lot. Historically, there used to be a lot of heather here. Used to be loads more gorse and broom. We're trying to bring as much of it back as we can, because of the visual aspect when it's flowering like this from a golfer's point of view is stunning, but also the wildlife it supports and everything. So it's an important part of this environment. You want interest on every hole from a golfer's point of view, and whether that's a sort of visual or a strategic sort of thing, which I think gorse offers both, because if you go in it, you're struggling because it's not easy to play out of it, especially with its prickly nature. But it does offer, like here, this sort of shapes the dogleg of this hole, if you like. So it's a key part of this hole and this golf course. So this, as you can see behind me, this sort of area here was gorse, and it was probably 12, 14 foot high, and it encroached right in front of this left-hand side of the hole. So we could only use the tee that you're stood on. We could only use the right-hand side of it. which obviously limits you when you haven't got massive tee space. So it was we took it right down to the stump. It's already regenerating, as you've just seen. It's growing back, but we'll be able to maintain that now at a height and a width that doesn't affect the hole as we play it. Not only did it affect the side of the tee, you could only see the right hand side of the hole as well as you were playing it. So it's opened up the vista from the tee, and it's opened up the whole hole. Like I said, we'll maintain it now. We can keep it pruned. Not every year. We'll do it on a cycle with everything else. But in the long term, the benefit of that is we've also got a healthy standard gorse as well that we can maintain. We're at a fresh starting point, if you like, so we can maintain that at a height and a width how we want to do it. We also have gorse at different sort of stages of its life, which offer different benefits to the wildlife as well. So that's important for us as well. Yeah, so it's same with everything in our job. Some people will love what you do, and some people will hate what you do, and it's a balancing act. Trying to keep the golfers happy and trying to protect what we've got as an asset. Trying to look after the golf course. I had members saying, "Why have you taken that out? It were beautiful. It were good." Absolutely. I mean, we could only use one side of the tee because your tee shot was going straight into the gorse. So from an agronomic point of view, it's allowed us to use the entirety of the tee, but it's also opened up the view down the hole. So aesthetically, that hole looks a lot more inviting, but you can also see where your ball's gone. It can be a bit of a shock to some members when they see it, because it can look a bit brutal when you've taken the gorse plant down to ground level, but it regenerates so well that it's not an issue, and within a year you can't really tell we've done the work. We work pretty closely with the Sherwood Trust, who are local to us, and they're big on heathland regeneration at the moment, as everyone is. So there's funding there. So between the Sherwood Trust and the Fairways Foundation, we've got funding for a heather nursery, which is at the top of our practice ground. So it's a long-term project, but the plan is that we will be able to harvest our own turf to introduce into other areas of the course. So they provided the finance to do it and the brash to sort of start it up, and heather turf. So we can sort of increase the amount of heather which around the course, which has been lost over the years historically. It wasn't hard. You speak to people and fill some forms in, and we've been successful on a couple, and there's a couple more things that I'm hoping to get over the next couple of months as well. So there's people out there that are willing to provide the money, and particularly if it's a sustainable project that's good for the environment, then you're on a good foot and easier to get funding for. But yeah, it's all sourced locally, and it can all be done on site. So we're not moving around, we're not moving materials around, and we do it on our terms and our timescales. So this historically was heather. This was heather, all this area. Over the years, the heather was lost. They planted a load of. There were cherry trees, oak trees. There were all sorts in here. As you can see behind me, there's these bits of heather which were sort of growing in the long grass, which is mainly fescue, but there's bits of all sorts in there. So last year we did a small scrape. Sorry, 2 winters ago we did a small scrape as a trial, and you can see this didn't have any brash on or anything. So this is just naturally regenerating heather just from scraping, because the seed was already in the ground. We just needed to expose it and give it a chance, and then, seeing the results from that, we extended the scrape, and long term we want to make all this area a heather scrape. But we have actually put brash on here from a donor site, which should sort of speed the process up. But the fact that we're getting heather regenerating just by exposing the seed is really encouraging. So it's a slow burner, and I get why golfers are a massive fan of it, because you've got this exposed ground which might look scruffy, but in the long term, we're making the best of a natural plant. I mean, as you can see, we have got bits coming through, but to fill this area, it's gonna take quite a while. But if the members can see that it's happening, and you can prove that it's happening, you're more likely to sort of get a bit more leniency with it in the future. I think communication is the key, and whether there's a lot through social media these days, but we do sort of reports that are emailed to the members. We put things up on notice boards in the clubhouse. We do presentations, whether that's AGMs or anything. And I think if the members know what your aim is and what your plan is, they give you get a bit more leeway, if you like. I think if they turn up and 3 holes are shut and you're ripping it up with heavy plant, it's a shock to them. Whereas if they know what's coming, and they know the process and why you're doing it, it does give you, it works better for all parties. No, not everyone's on Twitter, X, or anything like that. But it's good advertising for the club as well. If you can sort of showcase what you're doing and the benefits of doing it, it's all positive, I think. Yeah. So with nature, everything takes a while. Nothing's instant. Nothing's overnight. So when you're taking gorse from sort of 6-8 foot down to ground level, it's going to look a little bit startling. But as you've seen, it's what, 4 months since we did it, and it's recovering already. And in another 4 months and on to next year, it gives us a plant that we can maintain and aesthetically looks really nice, like the gorse and the broom we've done over the last 2 or 3 winters.